Before we get to the PowerPoint, I want to run through a couple of things. This is a project I worked on for many years in Fort Lauderdale. This was the BHMR project. This is 16 acres of dirt surrounded by 16 acres of water. Yes, you can own water. So at the time, the company I worked for, called the Blackstone Group, owned 32 acres. And they put me in charge as vice president of development for their company to redevelop this. And these were the neighbors over here, First Intercoastal, who started the discussion, no way in hell will we ever let you develop this property the way you want to develop it. We will fight you tooth and nail. And 4 years later, these same people kiss me, hug me, say great things about me, and they supported my project. War story. I used to go to Boston University. When I went to Boston University in the business school, we had our spring break, I think, early that year. So I came down for spring break. Life was really good. I'm enjoying this because Boston's cold. Down in Florida to see my family in Boca Raton. Then I had to go back up to Boston. And the way it worked out, Easter wasn't for another month. So the Jewish Passover and Easter holiday was a month away. And I said, I don't know if I can handle this cold for another month. I got to get back down to Florida. But I couldn't go to Boca Raton because my dad would say, well, I'm paying you to be in school. Why aren't you in school? So I actually flew down and I went to the BHMR Hotel for a week. And when I went there back in 1978 or 79, many dead brain cells ago, it was a beautiful hotel. It was like, wow, this is how rich people, this is nice. Okay, I'm living here. Fast forward 30 years, I would have put my worst enemy in that hotel. Because 30 years of neglect and being on the water, it was run down. So you had a 15-story hotel that was still okay, B minus. But you had a 4-story hotel that was beyond its useful life. And everyone agreed, even these people, that that should come down. But it was the fight over what it was going to be. So I wanted to take down that hotel. And you can see the 15-story hotel, and then here's the 4-story hotel right there. Okay? The piece of property is where all the value was. There was zero value in that 4-story structure. Okay? The value was in the land. This building here in glass, 4-story restaurant office, did not exist yet. Let me tell you how I decided to restructure this property. I wanted to go for the low-hanging fruit first. I had this little stem coming out here. And all I wanted to put there was parking underneath 2 restaurants and then 3 levels of office with the observation deck. No one was going to object to that. That was the low-hanging fruit. And I went for that as phase 1 for my approvals, knowing that that would be relatively easy. Knowing that coming down the road was the major redevelopment that was going to be the battle. Why have that get slowed down in the battle? If you can go for a simple single, go for the single or double, as you then try to get the grand slam later. Okay? So they approved this. No problem. This does not exist. What you have to do as a real estate developer is hire the right consultants, architects, landscape architects, land planners, what have you, to create dreams that don't exist. Most people can't read plans. You have to show them what it looks like in relation to everything that's there. And they go, oh, that's not bad. This was the first site plan that I came up with. Remember, it's a big parking lot, 16 acres with just 2 little hotels, a lot of parking. This is where the boat show is every year. My first plan was to have a big tower in place of the 4-story building, and then 2 major condominium towers in the back. Okay? And then I had parking underneath this park that I was going to do. I was going to give the community a park bigger than a football field. This is a site plan. This is what I wanted to get approved. This was the illustrative version of it. This is where the neighbors across the river said, we'll never let you do that. This was my option A. This here was the hotel that I wanted to put in place of the 4-story one. We were going to make it a Waldorf Astoria. And then back here, behind it, you can see one of the condos. There were going to be 2 condos. Okay? That's what they fought me on, was the condos in the back. Yes?
What was your reasoning behind knowing that phase 1 is
Because it was only 4 stories. Because it was next to a 15-story hotel. Most people aren't going to object to office and restaurants, only 4 stories, next to a 15-story hotel.
Why would they be so against the 4-story condos versus the hotel?
Oh, no. These condos back here were 25 stories.
Okay, so, that's...
Yeah. It was the earlier picture. This is what no one objected to.
The office and the rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one was, again, you had a 20-story condo here that wasn't mine. You had a 15-story hotel. Put it something between it that's low level, no one objected to.
Were you the developer of this project or the land use lawyer?
I was the developer. Look, let me tell you something. I went to Greenberg Traurig, 3.5 years as a land use lawyer, and I realized the money was in development. So I became a developer. Just like every corporate lawyer on Wall Street wants to become an investment banker. Did I have to write to money is good?
Yeah.
Someone tell them that, please.
And you said Blackstone hired you to develop that?
I worked for them for 10 years.
As a developer for them?
Yeah, I was the vice president of development for them.
How did you get in touch with Blackstone? I mean, what was the story behind that?
How did I get there?
Yeah.
They did a national search, and they interviewed people from around the United States, and given my business skills and my land use skills and the fact that I was already building condominiums in Boca Raton, they hired me. And I remember what they said, I won't use the F word, but they said, we can put you on the effing moon and you'll still get the effing project effing approved. That was how the interview went.
Okay.
And again, I love them. You want to know why? It's all about money. They hate each other. What's that?
You're good friends with Mr. Wasmiki.
Well, I'm not at that level, you know, but I mean, the level I was at was go get this done as a vice president of development. So anyway, you can see option A, option E. The difference is there's no condominium in the back. I've taken the condominium away on option E, but I made the tower bigger. I made this taller. This is working with the community. What I basically said to the community, okay, I won't give, everyone do this, ready? Take your hand, put it right here. That's not comfortable. You want to spend the next 2.5 hours like that? No. But imagine you move it away, and now you make it taller. Is that better? That's exactly the same thing I did to the neighbors. Okay? I did this with the City of Fort Lauderdale Commission. I said, Mayor, Vice Mayor, everyone do me a favor. Take your hand, they're like that. They look at me like I'm crazy. I said, now pull it away straight and make it taller. Isn't that better? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We dummied it down. I got a taller building by giving up the condo towers. Now, at the time, we were going into the Great Recession. There was no market for the condo towers, so I gave up something I wasn't going to develop for another decade anyway, because I got this approved. Now, let me tell you something. If you did a zoning code search for this property here, and you looked at the code, it would say 120 feet height is the max you can go. That's basically 12 stories. But I got a 27-story tower approved with the neighbors kissing and hugging me. And it was all legal.
Did you have to buy air rights?
No. I'll tell you what we did. Legally, I could put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes that were 12 stories tall, 200 feet long, 200 feet wide. That's what the zoning code allowed. I didn't want to do that. The neighbors didn't want to do that. But that's what the code allowed. Most zoning codes have what's known as a PUD or a PD. It stands for Planned Unit Development. And what a Planned Unit Development is? You throw the zoning code out and you start with a piece of blank paper, like this. And you cut whatever deal you can cut, as long as it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And what I said to the neighbors, would you rather have 5 12-story buildings or 1 27-story tower further away? And the deal that we cut was the following. I gave up the condos, I made this bigger, and this became the site plan that I got approved. This is where the big 27-story hotel went. I kept the 15-story hotel. Here was the restaurant. I kept the walkway around, and I had a football-sized park there. And the only reason I had all that parking left in the middle, does anyone know why?
Dogs.
What?
Future home,
The boat show. The Fort Lauderdale Boat Show has a greater economic impact than hosting a Super Bowl. This is where they put the tents for the boat show. So from a planning point of view, no one would look at this and say, give me an A. They would fail me if this was a planning school. They would say, why would you leave a big open asphalt parking lot? Okay, well, I need the boat show, economics. So the deal was, I create a community asset of the park. I create the walkway fully landscaped. You would never see this parking anyway, because it's this promenade. I got my big tower. And that's what it looked like. Here was a 27-story tower building approved. Here was the 4-story office. Here was the promenade all around that the neighbors would look at. Okay? And the neighbors came out that night and they supported the project. And on paper, we made over $100 million of value. On paper.
That's not bad now.
No, it's not. This doesn't exist. So I'm going to tell you part 2 of the story. Part 3. Okay? What do we care about in the school?
Money.
We got this approved. Blackstone said, good job. They gave me my 6-figure bonus, and then they said, go sell it. Okay? We have it approved. So then we went to only a handful of commercial brokers. I forget whether we use CB Richard Ellis or JLL. I forget which one. We used one of the two. And we listed the property. And we sold it for like $165 million. And again, we don't even own the land. The city of Fort Lauderdale owns it. We had it on a land lease, but we sold our rights. We were happy. We cashed out. We sold it to a local developer in Miami, and I sat down with these two brothers. And I said to them, I'm not going to mention their name. So I sat down with them and I said the following. You can do whatever you want with the property, it's now yours. I said, your family's better and development than my family, you're better than I, you walk on water, I suck. However, let me tell you from my humble point of view, it took me 4 years working with the neighbors to get to that delicate balance of, yes, you can do a 27-story Waldorf story or hotel, where there's condos on the top, hotel here, you protect the boat show, you have music, you don't blast it past 11 o'clock. A deal was cut. A very sensitive deal that took a lot of time. May I suggest you build this, you'll make a fortune. And they said basically, yeah, Peter, you're right. You suck, we're great. We know better than you because we're local. Okay, you do what you want. They come into the community where it took me 4 years to get one 27-story tower. They come into the community, they hire the best everyone, consultants. They don't listen to the consultants though. And they want to do two 39-story towers. The community went ballistic. Okay? Ballistic. And there was fighting and screaming, there was a public meeting, there was 200 people. It was the biggest battle going on. And they lost. Okay? And I told them, I said, look, it took me 4 years to get one 27-story tower. You're not going to, a year later, get 239. Just not.
But didn't you say that's the name of the game, though? Go big.
Yeah, but you have to, it's like, look, at the end of the day, you and I can play a game of poker, right?
Right.
And I can bluff on round one to get you to throw some more money in the pot. I can bluff on round two, right? We're playing the game. But sooner or later, you got to show your cards. Sooner or later, there's a vote. Okay? They thought they could ramrod two 39-story towers. They lost. Okay?
Can I ask you how much money Blackstone spent on the entire cycle approval process?
You can.
After the day they bought the land?
Well, I usually let people finish before I answer. It cost Blackstone roughly $5 million to go through the approval process between architects and, because the city of Fort Lauderdale is broken. I basically had to do $1 million worth of architecture before I even knew if I had my vote or not, up or down. We spent $5 million to create the value. So it gets down to this. Would you spend $5 million to make another $60 million, realizing probably the other $100 million that they sold was there anyway? Of course you would.
You also could use that $5 million.
What's that?
You could also use that $5 million and don't get approved.
Oh, sure.
That's
But that's why it's a big boy and girls game.
How much money was the land?
Well, let's assume the land was worth $100 million, whether I had the approvals or not. The fact we had the approvals probably got us closer to the 150, 160 plus. We created value. And just like the name of the book, we're going to start in 2 weeks. Create and preserve property value. Okay? So anyway, the story's not over yet. It took me 4 years to get one 27-story tower approved. The brothers come in, they try to do 39, they lose. So what they did, they threatened the community. And they said, okay, guess what? We're not going to go through the land use approval process. We're going to develop what we can do as of right. Remember I said I could do 5 12-story buildings that are... So they went ahead and they prepared that application. And everyone thought that it was a bluff, that was just to get the community to come back to, now let's recompromise on something. You know, maybe 2 towers out of 30. The community never came back. So they ended up today with approval, with a plan where there's no home for the boat show. And now they have 5 different 12-story buildings approved there, as of right. Where it took them, I know they spent $1 million to $2 million trying to get the 39-story things approved, and they lost. Think about time value of money. I just know how to pocket. If they went ahead and they built this, they would have already, you know, let me tell you something. Take $1 out of your pocket, and you're going to get to this somewhere else in the program. Do you want this today,
Today.
or do you want this when you graduate?
Today.
You want it today. Okay? Time value money. So, I'm not sure. The whole point of this, there's art here, not science. It's give and take. And I think today, what would have been an easy way for them to make a boatload of money, to take a 4-story building out of commission, to put a Waldorf Astoria branded hotel, to have condominiums in there, to upgrade it. They should have taken the money and run. But the point is, it's a fluid process. Let me tell you another project I did in Fort Lauderdale.
So the Fort Lauderdale boat show is no longer at that place?
No. It's still there because they haven't developed it
They
yet.
haven't done it.
So when they come to find out, so they cannot file it, but they will get not to approve that in the first one.
Well, just to answer this point, when I got the 27-story tower approved, the fact that they did it within the next 18 months, submitted for a site plan, the site plan dies on the vine. They let it die to try to go get their 39-story towers approved, but they never got approved. The point is, you got to use it or you lose it.
So they couldn't go back to your initial part?
They would have to start all over again. They probably could, but they would have to go back to the whole public process. And what have you.
They couldn't get back and say, okay, we want to take the option of the first guy and not that.
No, because it was dead. You know, it was kind of like, wouldn't you like to go back and buy Google stock on day one today? Yeah.
So does
But
it
the
have
land
like
is
a?
there.
So does it? When you rezone that property, it had a time limitation.
Yeah, that was
It did because the difference, look, this is important. If you have a piece of property that's zoned, let's say, RS5, residential single-family 5 units per acre, and you go in for a straight rezoning to RM10, we go from 5 to 10, and all you do is get the rezoning map change. That change is good forever. The difference this was, when you do a planned unit development, it's a rezoning stapled with the site plan approval. And the site plan only has a shelf life of 18 months if you don't pull your first building permit. And that's what made it die. This is another project yes,
If you don't pull your first permit, you said?
usually.
So in the process, before you even get approved, you got a good feeling if you whether you will get approved or not. No?
All I want you to know from this process is this is a game with a lot of money at stake. You don't just go get approvals, spend 2, 3, 4, 5 million unless you're not serious. Now some people are in the business of buying land, getting land rig-titled, and selling it, and they don't even own a shovel. You make money that way. And the thing about it is, most corporate people don't want to get their hands dirty at this level. Most REITs just want to buy an income stream. Okay, let me tell you another thing down the street. This is Pier 66. Blackstone owned this as well. I'm doing this for them at the same time. This is a 17-story hotel that exists. Those 2 condominiums right next to it don't exist. Okay. Why I was getting to be here more at 27-story tower approval and only allowed 12, I was doing this And I said to myself, I don't need to battle everything. I don't need a triple grand slam all the time. I built this as of right. And we're going to get to that distinction when we get to the book. I made sure everything I did was by the code as written. The code said I could do 120 feet. That's 120 feet. Code said I could do condominium hotels. That's what I did. Okay? This was supposed to be my easy, go get 25 million here, while you go look for 100 million there. And when I did the first thing, I had one big building, not two of them. And then Mark LaFerrier, who used to be the planning director of Fort Lauderdale, came in, looked at my big building. This is the 17th Street Causeway. And he said to me, I want you to divide the building in two. I want there to be a space between the buildings so the public can see water and light and air on the 17th Street Causeway, because that's a major gateway to our beach and city. And he said, I had a parking garage here, because all this was parking lot. I'm taking parking lot out, and I'm making the condos. So I had a parking garage here. And he said, I want you to keep your parking garage below the level of the 17th Street Causeway, so when people are going over the bridge, they see palm trees, not a parking garage. That's good planning. Now let me tell you something. I'm not going to make you in 8 weeks a planner. I'm here to help you make money as a developer. The response out of my mouth was the following. Yes, sir. You want to know why? All I care about is how much sellable square feet I have. You want 2 buildings instead of 1, and that's going to get your staff report to recommend it? I'm fine with that. As long as what staff was telling me was not hurting my pro forma and was going to get me my money, why fight staff? I could have said, huh, who are you? Mark LaFerrier? Don't you know who I work for? Don't you know we can kill you? You know? Don't you? Look, I'm a lawyer. I don't want to litigate. I want to build. So if staff comes to you and says, cut the baby in half, do what's good for the community, open it up, make it more better, do it. Because all you care about is the following. Ready? How much square feet do you have? Okay? If you have 100,000 square feet to sell, okay? And your attitude is, okay, 1 building would have been cheaper than 2 because I have to now have double AC, let's say, extra elevator, whatever, extra lobby. But if you were going to make, on a per square foot basis, $250 a square foot under your plan, and to get staff support, you're only making $225 a square foot, and you do the time value of money, do I want to fight you and fight litigation and fight neighbors? If I can get staff to support this, why fight every battle? Our President of the United States seems to be the kind of person where you're giving him that on a silver platter, but nah, I want $275. And that's fine, but you can't do that all the time. You know? And the beauty of it is, as I'm fighting the Bahia Mar project, I got this approved with a positive staff recommendation. It went to the Planning and Zoning Board, and it never had to go to a public hearing before the elected officials. Stay below the radar. And then we went ahead, we sold this to another billionaire who now also bought the property across the street, and they're going to redevelop everything. But we created the value by doing this. Okay, so those are just two examples. One last thing before we get into the PowerPoint. Here's a property I have in Puerto Rico. El Conquista, yes.
So you didn't have to go through the hearing process because you just...
I only had to, look, let me go through this with you. We'll go through this later. It starts usually with staff application. Then it might go to what's known as a development review committee with many parts of staff. Then it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who usually make a recommendation to the City Commission up here. I did this, I got their approval. Since no one was arguing or objecting, it didn't need to go up there. I stayed below the radar. I'm just trying to throw a whole bunch of concepts with you.
But you asked for nothing, no variation?
No,
under zoning.
I followed the code.
So
Yes.
your staff approved it from the get-go?
Yeah, because I worked with them.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay. So you don't have to do
look, let me tell you something.
Well, you followed the guidelines that were already there, so there wasn't really a lot they could really...
No. They could have said, the Fort Lauderdale Code has a trap in it. And the trap is the following. You meet all the technical parts of the code, height, setbacks, everything. Then section blah, blah, blah says the following. Every project must be compatible with the neighborhood. What does that mean? Okay, let's assume Nova has a basketball team. I don't know if they do or not. Let's assume the average height of the basketball player, 6'10". Let's assume Nova has a ballet club. The average ballerina, 4'10". Someone might say, gee, those two are not compatible for each other. But for all I know, they're in love, right? Normally, a 4'10" and a 6'10", not compatible. Okay, that's pretty clear to see. It's the two extremes. What do you do when it's in that middle? And then staff gets to say the following. We're the professionals, we don't think it's compatible. You want to go fight that in the courtroom? The judge is going to substitute their decision. So what you need to know is, I'm not here to make you a planner, but this is what I'm saying to you. If you can say yes to local government staff to support all of their plan in theory, and it makes your pro forma work, and you can get through the process sooner, then say yes. Okay? I had an architect. I made him cry at a public meeting. The neighbors wanted to change his building. And the architect said, well, don't you understand? I am the architect from Miami. I have created a masterpiece. And I looked at him and I said, shut the F up, do what the neighbors want, because I want to get the project approved. I'm not here for you to win an award. I'm here to get a project approved so I can inspire people. So you need to know enough planning and architecture to get through the thing. What happens if the neighbors come back and they want gray glass on the building as opposed to that aqua green glass? You can't. This is something I did in Puerto Rico. We had a hotel, Blackstone Group, before it got hit hard by the hurricane. 150 acres in Puerto Rico, out east of San Juan. Florida. It's El Conquistador, beautiful property up on a cliff. And I was going to put 950 units and another 9 holes of golf. That's all this year. And I hired my land planner to do 2 different plans. How to get me my 950. Okay? Some of it had 12-story buildings, some had 6 stories, some had more townhomes, some had more single family. I ran the numbers for both. My point is, if government staff can better support this than this, and I think there's a market for both, and I think the pro forma works for both, the point is, work with staff. Don't get so caught up in your vision, because your vision is just to get it out of the project. Okay? Okay. I want to talk about 3 documents. One of them you need to read for next week. I do not like 1,000 Friends of Florida. You want to know why? They're an environmental group. And guess what they want to do? They want to make sure you have clean air, clean water, and a beautiful Florida to live in. I hate everything about them. Because I want to pour concrete and make a boatload of money. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm serious. I've hated these people for 25 years. It's war. It's cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, Republicans, Democrats, developers, and everyone else. 1,000 Friends of Florida came up with the blueprint for the next 50, 60 years of Florida. It's called Florida 2070. So normally when I get my copy, it's like, okay, those bastards. What have they done to me now? And I open it up, and I go, wow, I can support this. I can support 1,000 Friends of Florida. You know why? They haven't taken a single dollar away from the development community. They haven't stopped a single person from coming here. You know what they said? Like Rodney King said years ago, why can't we just get along? They said, okay, why can't we get along? We know people are coming to Florida. Why can't we stop one another? We want you to have your money as a developer. We want you to have your Bentley. We want you to have your private jet. But must you destroy every piece of grass as you do it? No. So why don't we do this? Let's work together for a better Florida. And you can go online, you can pull this up. It's Florida 2070. And I'm going to just go like this. You're not going to get the full flavor. But up at the top was Florida where it is today. The amount of red is development. And then at the bottom, they showed what Florida would look like if we continue to develop as we are. Called urban sprawl. Let's just spread the development concrete everywhere. And what's next to it is their alternative. And what they're saying is, we're going to give you every dwelling unit, every person who wants to come here can come here. Let's just live a little bit closer inland. I hope none of you shop at Winn-Dixie, because you shouldn't. Okay, that's why God made Whole Foods, and Trader Joe's, and Publix. Every Winn-Dixie in Florida is going to go away soon. And guess what's going to go in its place? Not Publix. 12-story multi-family apartments in a mixed-use community. Because the only land left in South Florida are old, beat-up shopping centers. So the point is, let's not continue to take every piece of green grass there is. Let's redevelop the beat-up stuff. Denser. Remember I said your American dream has to be the 7th floor? Okay? So I'm saying, wow, my arch enemy for 25 years has actually done something that I can hold their hands with. Okay? So the point of it is, if the other side, if the bad guys, we're really not bad, they're good people, but we're here to make money, have come up with a plan that says, do you mind doing it this way? Your answer should be yes. Okay? Because you'll get support here. If we want to do business as usual, where every piece of grass we're just going to kill and scorch earth, that's what we've done. It's called urban sprawl. When I was younger than the youngest person in this room, you could drive around here and there'd be for sale signs, 100 acres of land, 50 acres of land. There's no more land left in South Florida. We've already killed every tree left. Now we're starting all over again. That's why when you go home and you drive around and you see a Winn-Dixie, and you see the parking in the front and a beat-up Winn-Dixie in the back and a dry cleaner and a nail salon and a gym and a strip shopping center, that's what the average person sees. What you need to see is a 12-story apartment complex with restaurants and shops there, because that's the next land opportunity. So, Thousand Friends of Florida has now reached across the aisle, and there's a deal to be made. And the point of it is, if the other side says, we'll support you with this framework, support that framework. Broward County, that's planning at the state level. Broward County has come down at a county level. And they have a county plan as well. And they deal with things at the county level like climate change, redevelopment, multimodal transportation, affordable housing, and what have you. But for next week, what I want you to do, I don't want you to read this document. Now, if you want to, you can. I haven't read it. But I've reviewed it numerous times. If you want to kill a tree or two and print it, you can. But download it. We'll talk about the document in a minute. It's listed on the syllabus. This is the Evaluation and Appraisal Report for Fort Lauderdale Comprehensive Plan 2016. I'll tell you how to get to it in a moment. Remember I said there's a land use map part of the comprehensive plan? Fort Lauderdale is in the process of updating their comprehensive plan, but they've done an EARS report. And I want you to skim this. The reason is, if you're going to be a real estate developer, you need to know the language of urban planners and what makes them happy. If you were going to go to Paris, I just was in Paris a couple of months ago, right? I had to make sure I learned enough French to get by, you know what I mean? If you're going to do this for a career, you better know enough planning lingo, what makes those people excited, so it looks like you care. So I want you to review this to understand this, what they're doing. Now this is how you get to the document. You take out your iPhone. I'm going to do it with you right now. I'm going to hit Fort Lauderdale Planning and Zoning in my Google search. Okay? And when I do Fort Lauderdale Planning and Zoning in my Google search, I see, as the first thing that comes up, City of Fort Lauderdale Planning and Zoning Land Use Information, Fort Lauderdale Gov. And I get to that, and it says City of Fort Lauderdale. This is the mobile one. And I skip down to the bottom of mine, and it says View Full Site. Does everyone see that? Because you want to go from your mobile phone, you want to get to the full site. So now I have the home page for the Fort Lauderdale Planning and Zoning Department. That's what we're trying to get to. And I look in the upper left-hand corner, and under the upper left-hand corner, I see a blue box, then I see a white thing that says Urban Design and Planning. Everyone see that? Urban Design and Planning? I'm going to hit that. And now I'm going to go to the sub-page for the Fort Lauderdale Urban and Design Planning Department. And then I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to have 6 colored boxes, if you see that. And there should be a dark blue box at the bottom right called Comprehensive Plan. Remember I started with the future land use map of the comprehensive plan? I'm going to hit that. And you're going to go to the page that talks all about the Fort Lauderdale comprehensive plan that they're in the process of updating. But what I want you to do is you will see evaluation and appraisal report EAR, E-E-E-A-R, in parentheses. You see that? You go down, you have a box with buildings that says Advanced Fort Lauderdale. You see that? And you go down below that box, and you'll see in blue letters, Evaluation and Appraisal Report. February 2, 2016 is the link. You see the little PDF box there. If you hit Evaluation and Appraisal Report, adopted February 20, 2016, it brings you to this report here. Is everyone there? Between now and next week, download that, open it. I want us to have a discussion, because you can't be a real estate developer if all you do is the following. Hey, I own some land, my pro forma is beautiful, I'm going to make a fortune. I did my market study, it's really great. And from a business point of view, I'm all set to go. You need to know the language of the planning folks, because those are the ones that are going to write the staff report that's either going to approve your project or not.
Do we have to read the whole report?
No, no, I said don't read it.
Okay.
I need you to skim it. What I really need you to do, imagine this. This is going to be hard for some of you. Imagine putting your phone away for 28 minutes. No text, no cell phones for 28 minutes. Some of you are going to start turning blue and shaking when I say that. Spend 28 minutes skimming this document. Look at the pictures, half of it's pictures that made this user-friendly. I need you to get a flavor for what urban planning is about. Because these are the people you have to go look at. Look, I got $5,000 custom-made suits and Gucci loafers in my closet. When I go to planning staff, I'm not wearing that. You know? I'm wearing my $200 suit that looks like I got off a rack, a pair of beat-up shoes, and I'm acting like I'm one of them. Okay? Yeah, don't you love that environmental stuff? Yeah. Okay? You gotta go play the game. Because those are the people that are gonna write your staff report. And if you go in there and all you say is, yeah, I ran my pro forma, we're making tons of money. Our IRR is 42%. I'm gonna get my bonus this year. They don't want to hear that. When I was in Vancouver, it's a beautiful city. And if Hillary won, I was going to Vancouver. But I'm here. But Vancouver, what they do, you think it's funny? I meant it, oh yeah. Oh, you know what they do in Vancouver? Vancouver is one of the most beautiful cities that I've seen. And what they do is they say the following. Make believe this is a street block, this is a street block, this is a street, and this is a street here. So the table is the land, and all around it are the streets. A developer like me would like to go 50 stories up, starting at these corners, so every piece of dirt that I own has 50 stories up on it, because I get the most to sell. They don't let you do that. They want to have about a 10-foot sidewalk around your entire property. Then they want you to build 3-story townhomes up. Okay? Then they set the towers back. Then they let you go up your 50 stories. They let you go up here with a pencil building. They let you go up here with another building. So there's openness. But then, by having the 10-foot sidewalk, and by having the buildings go up 3 stories with townhomes, and then pull the tower back, I, as a pedestrian, when I walk in the city, I don't have this 50-story building coming right down to my sidewalk. So you can walk in Vancouver, and it feels like it was designed for people. Because no one likes to be next to a 50-story tower. That's called urban design. So why fight the government and say, no, I got to put my building on the corner, because don't you realize I'm leaving stuff on the table? You want to fight that in court for 10 years? Or do you want to pull it back and do the good design? My point of this is, you can't be a good real estate developer if you don't understand it's also a planning process. Because those are the people you're going to deal with. Okay? So, 28 minutes between now and next week, go through this. Skim it. Just to have a discussion. Have it become part of your DNA. Then, I got homework for you, and then we're going to go through the PowerPoint. So everyone knows where to get that. Okay. Homework. If I'm moving to Canada, if Hillary won comment upset you, wait till you hear this comment. Life's not fair. I live in Boca Raton. And people who live in Boca Raton should not be inconvenienced to have to go to Delray Beach, Pompano, or Coconut Creek to buy Mercedes-Benz. Because why should people of Boca Raton deal with those people? I should be able to buy my Mercedes in Boca Raton. Because after all, I'm from Boca Raton. So what I want you to do to make me happy, I want you to find me a place in Boca Raton where I can legally build a Boca Raton Mercedes-Benz dealership. Because I should not be inconvenienced. So what I want you to do is the following. Boca Raton, I'm talking the city limits of Boca Raton. I'm not talking where I live out west with a Boca Raton address and unincorporated. Okay, so the first thing is you're dealing with the city of Boca Raton. And guess what? I guarantee you, Boca Raton has a land use map just like Fort Lauderdale. Now, a Mercedes-Benz dealership is not residential. It's commercial. Right? Therefore, what color are we looking for? Red. Okay? I guarantee you, Boca Raton has a zoning map just like Fort Lauderdale. Now, and I honestly don't know this, some cities call it C1, C2 for commercial level 1, commercial level 2. Some call it B1, B2 for business 1, business 2. Now in general, this is a pretty safe bet. B2 or C2 is more intense use of commercial than C1 or B1. The higher the number, the more intensity. So I don't know what Boca Raton calls it. They might call it C1, C2, C3. They might call it B1, 2, 3. Now, so you know what city you have. You got to look for comp plans and zonings. It's all available online. You don't need to go down to Boca Raton. But this is the criteria. It needs to be located on Federal Highway, which is also called US 1, and it has to be located north of Palmetto Park Road. So, Here's Palmetto Park Road. Here's Glades Road. Here's Del Rey. Here's Yamato. Here's US 1. So you have to go find the comprehensive plan, zone and map for federal highway. Okay? It's Meisner Park at the bottom, going all the way up to the Del Rey line. So what you'd be doing, in Fort Lauderdale, you see this red strip? This is US 1. I guarantee you if I put every other city above it, you would probably see the same red strip more or less going up. So your homework for me is to find a place to put a Mercedes-Benz dealership so people like me, the good people of Boca Raton, do not have to be inconvenienced to go to Pompano, Del Rey, or Coconut Creek. Well, we're going to get to that. What's your question?
I have the same question. How big?
Well, this is the thing. I'm disappointed that you asked the question. I'll tell you why. Let's now be real world. In the real world, you work for me. You graduate this program. You don't know whether you're going to work for Auto Nation here in town. You don't know if you're going to work. You don't know what you're going to do. You want to leave here and make a whole bunch of money. First day in the job, right? If your widget that you build are car dealerships, what are you going to do? What I'd be doing is saying, holy, he wants me to do something, and it's due next week. Well, what I would be doing if I was you, I would be going to that thing called Google Earth. I would find that poor Mercedes-Benz dealership in Pompano, Del Rey Beach, Coconut Creek, and I would get a sense of how big they are. So answer your own question. How big are they? Now let me tell you what's changed. When I was your age in South Florida, car dealers were always on big, open, flat lots because the land was cheap. Now you're on I-75. They do car dealerships in 5-story parking things. You go to Manhattan, Park Avenue. Look, the golden life is to get enough money to move to Park Avenue in New York City. That should be your ultimate purpose every day you wake up. And if you do that, there actually is a Mercedes-Benz dealership on Park Avenue. And it's probably the size of this room. And they put 2 cars on display. Because the land there is just so expensive, you know, and then you have to order it. You know what I mean? So you answer your own question, how big does it have to be? Now look, it's very simple. You either find a piece of property that's vacant and build, or you find, I don't want to use the S word, but you find a S piece of property and knock it down and put it back.
I was proposing whatever we kind of Dixie.
That's what you might do. You might say, find me the property corridor, find me the worst thing there, let's knock it down, because do you know how many people live in Boca Raton with Mercedes? In fact, you're not allowed to live in Boca Raton if you don't have a Mercedes, Jaguar, BMW. It's against the rules. So when you come back next week, what I love doing, see, my wife doesn't give me any respect at all. But I get the power of picking on, let's say you or you or you. I'm going to pick on one of you. I'm going to say, where did you find me my Mercedes-Benz dealership? So all of you need to be able to say, I found you something that works. Because guess what? I don't want to go through a comp plan amendment. I don't want to go through a rezoning. I don't want a political battle with the neighbors. I want a new car. And I want it now. Everyone knows what to do? And it's all online. So you need to find the comp plan, the zoning. Now, let me tell you something. I should have been clear on this. This is a zoning map. The zoning map has a cousin. It's called the zoning text or the zoning code itself. So it's a 3-step process you do in this order. first get the comprehensive plan, look for red. Then, two, you do one of two things. You either go to the zoning code, which is the book, that will have commercial 1, commercial 2, commercial 3, or business 1, business 2, business 3, and find out where a car dealership is allowed. Then you go to the map and find something. Okay? Or you can go to the map, find a commercial business district, and then go to the code to see if it allows it. But to do this assignment, you need to look at a comprehensive plan map, the zoning map, and you got to look at the zoning code. And it's all available online. Now, let me teach you something. I think Boca Raton is one of these governments that do this. There's two ways to get a zoning code. You can go to probably the following. You do a Google search, Boca Raton zoning code, and it comes up. You go to their planning page, just like I did for Fort Lauderdale. Many times they have a link there to their zoning code. Or you do something called www.municode.com. Stands for municipal code. You do that search, then it'll come up with all 50 states. You hit Florida, and then you see if your city's there. Boca Raton is. Miramar may not be, I don't know. The point is, you can get 95% of every zoning code in the United States as you sit in your apartment or on the beach. www.municode.com. So if you're going to give me 28 minutes on looking at the EARS report, I'd like you to give me an hour and 28 minutes for this. You've got to get comfortable with what is a comprehensive plan, what is a zoning map, what is a zoning code, applying it, and you've got to read. You got to see where it fits. Then you've got to do a little bit of surveillance. What does Coconut Creek, Pembroke Pines, Miami, Delray, and other Mercedes dealerships in the area have size-wise? The ones in Miami might be smaller, so you might want to then go vertical. And if this was a class project for your final NOVA to get out of school with the diploma, you'd be running your pro forma to make sure it works economically. You'd be running your market study to make sure there's enough demand, or believe me, there's enough demand to sell Mercedes in Boca Raton. Well, the real question for you is, how much can you pay for the land, and can you afford to build a parking garage? Now, the rule of thumb that I have, every time I build a parking garage, every spot's $25,000. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. But that's the frame of reference. So you do the math. 100 cars in a parking garage times $25,000, it's a big number. Is it better to buy more land or pour more concrete? Those are one of the things you're going to have to figure out. Because if I'm the boss and you work for me, and I give you 42 seconds to make your pitch on why I should listen to your proposal to someone else's, you should have done the homework of, hey boss, land's too expensive. We got to go up 5 stories with the garage. Well, guess what? I think we can do this thing where if we buy this piece of property, it's more land than we need, but it's cheaper to build on the surface than go up. That's what you have to do as real estate people. Okay, so that's your homework for next week. Okay?
So is it fictional, or you want us to do non-fiction?
No, this is real world. Do you think I care about fiction?
Well, Mercedes-Benz dealership in Boca Raton, on Palmetto and Federal Highway.
No. Anywhere on Federal Highway. Anywhere on Federal Highway, north of Palmetto Park Road to the state line. I mean to the city line.
Oh, yeah.
No. In Boca Raton. Here's US 1 at Palmetto Park Road.
Before Hillsborough.
No, Hillsborough going north to Delray. You have to be north of Palmetto Park Road.
When he goes to direction,
It stops at Del Rey. I don't want to go to Del Rey. There's people from Del Rey in Del Rey, and I want to stay in Boca Raton. Okay? Everyone get it? Okay? Do you understand now? Yeah. Okay. Let's go through this PowerPoint. You drive Mercedes? Where did you buy it?
where did I buy
Yeah.
it?
Ooh.
But how do you want it presented? You just want this to the side? How is that?
I don't need you to hand it in. I need all of you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pick on one or two of you and embarrass the shit out of you. So you better be prepared not to be embarrassed. Okay, so nothing to hand in. Look, at the end of the day, this is a graduate program. This is for you to learn. The whole purpose of this is to put this into your DNA, so when you need to do a land use analysis, investigation in the real world, it's pretty straightforward how to do it. Okay, I need your undivided attention for the next hour. I want to go through this PowerPoint. This PowerPoint you made available to everyone, correct?
Yes.
So you don't need to take notes. You need to get a flavor of what we're trying to accomplish here.
And if you didn't get an email from me with these slides, just let me know, and I'll make sure I get it to you. But you didn't get one, Jordan?
No. I didn't get one yet.
Seriously, if you didn't get one, I can't tell if you did or not. Shoot me an email.
Okay, is this enough contrast? Do we need more?
No, it's not working.
Okay, this is a real live world conference that I did about a month and a half ago. This was geared up for urban regional planners. This was not geared up for lawyers, but I think you as real estate future tycoons can also learn from this. I'm going to go through some general land use law, then I'm going to go through some specifics. Why should planners have a working knowledge of land use law to be a good planner? Well, it's the same thing. Why should real estate practitioners have a working knowledge? Because it starts with the planning process. Before you ever get to sell a unit or lease a unit, you got to get through the planning process. And I was telling the people, salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly, and Corona and lime go together. So does planning, real estate development, and land use law. You can't separate it. You can't get an F in this class, get an A in everything else, and expect to be good at real estate. Okay, compatibility. This is right out of the Florida statutes. Remember I said the big basketball player and the little girl who dances ballet? We all should understand common sense. You don't put the 12-story apartment building next to a single-family house. That's the aha moment. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't do that. Do you see the transition? High-rise, mid-rise, duplex, single-family. That's compatible.
Except in Golden Beach.
In Golden Beach, everything is big. The point is, you need to understand this as a framework. This is what urban planners do. They try to keep things compatible. Okay? What is the law? Well, we have federal, state, and local. Okay? And you have to be involved with all of them. Just like we have a president or a governor, we have the U.S. Congress, legislature, they have rules and court decisions. Most of what you're going to do is right here. The zoning code. Okay, this is what you do. The goal is to get your site plan approved. whatever building you ever want to build, it's to get the site plan approval. Okay? You might have an opinion on the Roe v. Wade abortion decision. That's still part of the law. It doesn't affect us. You might care about international law and whether we should let certain people from certain countries into our country. It doesn't affect us. Okay? We deal with the local law here. At the end of the day, I don't really care who's in the White House. I'm upset that my guy's not sitting as the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, because that's me making my money at this level. You know? Everything's pretty local. Okay? Federal, state, regional, county, local, and then private restrictions. To put the word "the law" into two buckets. There's court cases, and then there's everything else. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I think Roe v. Wade, the abortion decision, makes the point real clear. I think it was in the 70s. Roe v. Wade basically was the court case that said abortion is legal. Okay? That was decided by the United States Supreme Court. Since they decided that for that woman, I don't know if it was Roe or Wade who wanted to have the abortion, that's not the point. The point is, that case now, for every other woman going forward, doesn't need to relitigate that same issue. It's been decided. That's why we need to be concerned about court cases. Okay? Because the whole idea is if Mr. Smith went to court and the answer was no, Mr. Jones doesn't have to relitigate it because it's the same thing. So we have statutes passed by Congress or the people in Tallahassee, our state capital. We have ordinances and rules. This is rules and regs, like thou shalt not drive more than 55 miles an hour. Thou can't build bigger than 12 stories. These are rules. Those are court decisions. Those are the two main buckets that affect the law. And you need to know the process for both. To give you an example, let's assume all I want to do is build. Let's assume I'm one of these rich people that gave money to this school here, right? And I look around, I see all these bills, people's names on it. And I say, don't you know I'm Peter Head? Who's this guy, Mr. Heisinger? You know, he only made a couple of billion. I made $71 million. I had so much respect for him. Unfortunately, he just passed away. He was a good man for this community. But let's assume I say, you know what? We're going to have the Peter Hen School of how to be a good Republican. And we're going to build it right here at Nova. And we're going to build it like the Tower of Babel. I want to be 75 stories tall. So I want everyone in South Florida to see my big tower. Right? What's the biggest problem with putting a 75-story tower here at Nova campus? Airplanes. FAA. Those airplanes come right over. They're going to hit my building. So I made this silly example to let you know, oh, federal law deals with FAA, airplanes. So even though I say everything's local, what does the zoning code say? The federal government gets involved as well on that. Let's assume I only want fit people to come to my building. And if you are in a wheelchair, well, sorry, you're not fit, you can't come here. Well, no, the federal government has said, Americans with Disability Act. If you go to the steps right over there, on that little lobby where the security is, one side, there's a handicapped ramp that goes down, other side are steps. Nova did not have a choice on whether they did that or not. Federal law says you must do that. The point I'm trying to make to you, you might own a little piece of property in a little place called Davie, Florida. You have to be aware that federal rule comes down. You mentioned something about the Fair Housing Act, okay? One thing that I don't like about what Seattle just did, and there's litigation going on. I believe in second chances to a point. But if somebody gets arrested for a crime, and they do the time, and they come out, okay, you paid your debt to society, we should embrace you. But Seattle has said you, as a landlord, can never ask someone about their criminal background investigation. So someone could have gone to jail for 25 years for rape and murder, pay their debt to society, get out, and in Seattle, you as a landlord do not have the right to do a criminal background check on that person. And now there's suits on that. Saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm not about to let that person into my building. I don't care about their rights. But the point is, that would be a state law that determines what you can and can't do with your property. Okay? We also have state laws coming out of the Department of Environmental Protection on what you can and can't do. I already told you before, Florida Statutes Chapter 163 is the big state law that deals with growth management here. Okay? We have regional law. This stands for the South Florida Water Management District. Did any of you go to the bathroom during the break? Did you flush? Yeah. Did you wash your hands? I hope so. Right? Well, guess what? You had to go, when they built this campus, they had to go to the South Florida Water Management District to get a consumptive use permit to have the water here. That's a regional government. Broward County, they have rules also on certain things, on environmental. Remember I said the plat lands as well. So you might be here in Little Davie, Florida, wanting to do your project, and everything's local. And you have your zoning code, just like you're going to do next week for Boca Raton. You have your zoning code out, which is great. You still need to know federal, state, regional, county affected as well. That's why what I would do, if you're going to leave here and get a real job working for a real development company with real dollars on the table, first thing you do, you hire a good law firm and you say, you do a land use investigation report and you tell me everything that I need. Oh, this is the most important thing I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to pick on you. CYA. You know what that means? Okay. If you're a vice president of a development company, and you're responsible for the southeast of the United States, where you're in Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, trying to get apartment buildings up, and you take my class and you actually get a good grade, like a C+, just to see if you're awake. And let's assume you think you know this stuff. Do you want to be responsible for reading the code and knowing if every law is on there? Or are you going to hire a local land use lawyer and say, I'll give you $10,000. Okay? Do a report. Tell me every rule that I need to follow. Because if you miss one of them, you got to start over again. The point of this is this is serious stuff. You just can't look at the zoning code here. Next week, Boca Raton, basically I'm saying, do you know how to read a zoning code? Yes or no? That's critical. You need to learn how to read a zoning code. However, there's so much more going on. The lawyers next door in the law school, it's their job to tell you all of this. But it's your job to at least have a sense. There's height levels, there's discrimination issues, there's handicap issues, there's environmental issues.
What is the ACOE?
This is the Army Corps of Engineers. They get a wetland permit. Someone over here likes the environment. And I said to her during the break, and all of you can do this as well. You want to focus on the environment. So for your project, you could talk about a dispute that had environmental issues. If someone else has background on community redevelopment agencies or anything else, what they want to focus on, they can focus on that. If someone else says, hey, I really like Habitat for Humanity and I want to deal with how to put charitable stuff in a certain community, that's what you deal with. So whatever your project is, if you have background, you can focus on that. Okay? But you need to go to the Army Corps of Engineers to get a wetland permit to dig a hole in the ground in certain frameworks. This is not meant to be a complete list of everything. This is almost to scare you of, oh my God, all I want to do is make a building and make money, and I got all this stuff. Yeah, because all this stuff affects you. Federal court and Supreme Court, I'm sorry, federal court and state court. Most of what we're going to do in the real estate framework is always going to be in a state court. The reason being, we deal with land. So if you are in Boca Raton, okay, and we have a dispute on the Mercedes-Benz property you're going to find for me, and there's a lawsuit, you're going to file that in the Palm Beach County Courthouse. That's the county there. You're not going to file it down here in Broward County, because it's the land's in that county. Most of what we do is state. I'll teach you some Latin. Stare decisis. To abide by or adhere to what's been decided. That's the Roe v. Wade example. We've already decided Roe v. Wade. We can rely upon it. Except politics affects the law. Trump put a new conservative Supreme Court justice. His people purposely, I think in Iowa, on a state, purposely passed a very anti-abortion type statute, very limited, for the sole purpose to get it back to the Supreme Court so that they can undo Roe v. Wade. And that would be from the 70s all the way to now. It took a whole generation to change that. Does anyone know what the most important Supreme Court decision of the last 50 years is? Brown versus education. We once had a time in this country, separate but equal was equal. And then the next day, it wasn't anymore. And that has never been changed and will never be changed. Okay? Supreme Court can have major power. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you like Obama or not, that doesn't matter. The most important thing that a president does is select the Supreme Court justices. Because that's someone for 20, 30, 40 years that can set policy. And if you're a woman and you care about your privacy rights, biological, whether you're a mother or not, there's 9 people who are going to make that decision. When Roe v. Wade was decided the first time, it was 5 in favor, 4 against. And if they undo it, it would probably be just the reverse, 5-4. That's how divided our country is on one person right now. But stare decisis means you can rely upon what's already been decided. That's why court decisions do matter. How many constitutions are there in the United States? 51. No.
No. One.
No.
One national.
One
and 50
national,
states.
50 states. We're called the United States. Okay? Are the fair share regional affordable housing requirements established by the Supreme Court in the Mount Laurel decision of New Jersey applicable to Florida?
No.
No. Mount Laurel is a great decision. It says every city in New Jersey has to do their fair share of affordable housing. Boca Raton gets to say, guess what? We don't believe in affordable housing. And if someone sued Boca Raton and said, yeah, but look at the Mount Laurel decision, it says you have to do your fair share. I would say, no, that's New Jersey. And the only way that case affects us is if somehow we get to the Florida Supreme Court and they decide to adopt it. So when I say to you, what is the law? It's what area are you looking at? What's the law for where your property is? Now, if I'm a kind human being, which I'm not, then I should care about that Mount Laurel decision. But as a real estate developer type person teaching you here, you don't need to worry about that. It's not the law. Throw extra dollar in the basket tomorrow and move on. What law controls in a conflict? Oh, I didn't tell you this. Boca Raton has the Boca Raton driver's license. Did you know that? Mine says Boca Raton. Because I don't want to be confused with the Del Rey. Or no, where'd you go, Covenant Creek? No, I'm lying to you. If you have a Florida driver's license, what does it say? State of Florida. The state of Florida has said, guess what? We issue driver's licenses. You can't get a Boca Raton driver's license. Okay? That's where the state has said we control that. Alcohol rules controlled a lot by the state. Gun control rules by the state. That's the whole issue after the Parkland shooting. Should we let the city of Parkland decide gun control issues, or is that a state issue? So you need to get a sense of what's going on there. Okay? I'm not trying to make you lawyers, I'm just trying to let you know this is pretty complicated. But the answer depends based on whether the government at the higher level wants to do it. It's no different than, right now, look, you might hate our president, but you want to know something? You remember I said I'm going to Vancouver if Hillary won? Guess what Vancouver would say to me? Thank you for coming here for the next 6 months. Please spend a lot of money here as a visitor tourist for 6 months. And when the 6 months are up, get the hell out. Okay? We don't do this in this country. We have the same rules Canada does, but we don't follow them. So people in California get to say to the federal government, yeah, we know that the federal government has decided that only the federal government deals with immigration. That's what the law says, but we're going to be a sanctuary city. All out of control right now. If you put aside your personal feelings, and put aside your politics, a lawyer next door in the law school would say, only the United States federal government can set U.S. immigration policy, not the state of California. But we've gone crazy. Well, my point to you is, we need to know where things are. When it comes to fair housing, the federal government has said you can't discriminate. When it comes to disabilities, the federal government says you can let people in. Other things the state speaks. Most land use law deals with the use of land. I want to use my land and get as much money as I possibly can. An example is the zoning code. That's why next week, spend some time. Don't get it as, gee, he gave us homework. Look at it as, okay, I'm helping you learn how to be a professional, and you can't be a professional if you don't know how to deal with the zoning code. I'm sure somewhere on this campus you can go do chemistry, right? They have a chemistry department here? Does anyone know what NaCl is? Salt. Salt. If you're in Jerusalem, if you're in Cleveland, or you're in Davie, Florida, NaCl is always salt. That's an absolute science. Land use law is never absolute. We're balancing the public interest and we're balancing property rights. And the law changes. Okay? It's a balancing act. The legal basis that allows local government to control regulation of land is based on police power. To protect the public health, safety, welfare. What type of Mercedes do you have? It's a big engine, right? You can go pretty fast, right? Let's assume he has to get home tonight. He wants to get home really quick. And his car could easily do 100 miles an hour and be straight on a dime, right? Go straight. You do 100 in your car and be straight. We all hope a cop's going to pull him over, right? No, we do. Well, we want him to get pulled over. Why? Because he's putting our life in danger doing 100 miles an hour on a 50-mile-an-hour zone. That's police power. The same, and if someone's knocking at your door late at night, banging to get in, and they have a big gun, and you just want to sleep, and they want to break in, the government to come protect you is police power. The same rationale is the basis of the zoning code. It's to protect the public health, safety, welfare, and morals of the community. Now, if there wasn't a zoning code, or there wasn't this thing called the law, I'd be putting a 75-story tower monument to myself right next to your single-family house. Remember I showed you the compatibility with the big red X? I would stick right next to you where you raise your kids, a Walmart. There'll be no buffer. Government says, based on police power to protect the public health, safety, welfare, you can't do that. That's the genesis for it. It's very, very broad. If you go to Vegas, the House usually wins. It's proven. Take $100,000, go to Vegas, and sooner or later you'll leave without bus fare to get home. You might be up at one point, but sooner or later the House is taking all your money. Government wins usually, unless they do something stupid. But there's limits to police power. Procedural due process. Guess what? Let's make believe this gentleman owns commercial property, and he's entitled to build a Walmart. And now he comes in with his plans for the Walmart, and we say, oh, guess what? You can't build it anymore. Last night we got together and we downzoned your property from B2 to now it's RS3. Last night, yeah. Oh, we didn't tell you about it? Sorry. It doesn't work that way. Government just can't have secret meetings. There has to be notice. So if you drive around South Florida, you see these big yellow signs on property that says, public notice coming. That means someone wants to change the use of their property. We're telling you about it. Okay? We have to be fair. Oh, you're not wearing a collar? Are you sure you don't have a collar? Oh, you don't get your project approved. No. Government has no reason to treat you different because you don't have a collar and I do. It has to be fairness. Okay, so government has a lot of power to regulate your land. They got to be fair about it. Okay, they got to treat people the same. Okay? There has to be substantive due process. Government can't say, you know what? We don't like Starbucks in the town of Davie. We're a bunch of redneck cowboys. We're Dunkin' Donut kind of people. So we're going to pass a code that says Dunkin' Donut only, no Starbucks. Can you think of any rational basis for the town of Davie to pick one private vendor over another? No. There's no legitimate reason for government to do that, and it's not fair. It's not equal protection. Yes?
Now you mentioned that, the Cedar Coral Gables in Miami.
Well, Coral Gables is different. They're like Palm Beach and Boca Raton.
They don't have McDonald's or Burger Kings or anything like that in the city. And the way they were able to do that, or so is the rumor, is that they did not allow drive-thrus.
Yeah. Government can do the following, and Palm Beach doesn't allow it either, and they do it a different way. If you don't want fast foods, you can't say no McDonald's. But what you can say is no drive-thrus. But listen, if you're going to say no drive-thrus to McDonald's, the code has to say no drive-thrus to banks either.
Yeah.
Okay, no drive-thrus. The way the town of Palm Beach, where our president has his winter home, what they do is they basically go even further. I was at dinner last night at J. Alexander's, which is a good high-end national chain. And last week I was at Seasons 52, another high-end national chain. The way Palm Beach does it is they basically say no national chains. They want uniqueness. And that's probably getting a little bit cut into the edge a little bit. But government has a lot of power, okay? And the thing about drive-thrus is it has a negative connotation for a community. It's that urban sprawl. It's not the walkability that we want.
So are some things grandfathered in?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. If you already have a McDonald's with a drive-thru, and then they pass the rules, they can't say, no, you got to leave the next day. What they could do is they could phase you out over 10 or 20 years for you to recap your investment, then you can go away.
So like, for example, the town of Palm Beach, they have a bank with a drive-thru.
Do they?
Yeah. So the thing is, if another bank came and occupied that space, would they be able to use that?
They could. You know, now we're getting down to the specifics. I don't know the code. The point of it is, what I want you to see here, If you have a choice, would you rather own the casino or be the schmuck guy throwing the dice at the slot table? You'd rather own the casino, right? It's good to be king. It's good to be the house. It's good to be the government. Let's move on. Okay. First Amendment and Fifth Amendment. Those are the two big ones. Let's go back 250 years. The King of England could say, you know what? I like your land. I'm going to take it. And I'm not going to pay for it. When we set up our nation, we didn't want our government taking our property. So if government takes your property today for a road, school, what have you, they're going to pay for it. First Amendment. If I basically said something against the leader of North Korea, I would disappear and never be seen again. I say something against our president, I get to go on my own talk show late at night, right? And make $1 million. In this country, we have freedom of speech. But we all know that you can't, I can't scream right now, fire, right? And we'd all stampede to the door. There's limits to that. But government can't limit your speech. Now let's assume tomorrow's Mother's Day, and let's assume your grandmother's still alive. She's probably the holiest person on the planet, right? And let's assume your grandmother's the mayor of the town. And I come in. And I have a restaurant, I have a facility I want to build called Peter's Pleasure Palace. And there's women who are not wearing clothes. And they're dancing. And I follow the zoning code, I follow all the rules. And Grandma says, I am never going to approve that in my town. You know what the city attorney's going to say to Grandma? Grandma, if you don't give Peter his pleasure palace, he's going to bring a $15 million lawsuit against the city, and he's going to win. And he's going to sue you personally. Grandma's going to say, well, I'm still going to vote against it because I respond to a higher authority. Women or men dancing with no clothes on is a form of freedom of speech. So you just can't out-limit adult entertainment. But what government can do is the following. I used to develop in Baltimore. Baltimore decided to concentrate the smut, whatever, in a 2-block by 2-block area. But the sad thing, it was right next to City Hall. So me with the mayor of Baltimore, I'd come out and right there. They put it 2 blocks by 2 blocks. Other cities do the other extreme. It must be 1,000 feet away from a school, 1,000 feet away from residential, and must be 1,000 feet away from another adult entertainment. That's spread it out. One of the reasons why most adult entertainment is by airports is because the city attorney says you got to put it somewhere, otherwise you'll get sued. And they put it in industrial areas, and most industrial areas are by airports. Now, I don't want to turn this into a lecture on adult entertainment, but the point is, government would like to say no, but even those people have rights in this country. Where in China, if the Communist Party says no, you don't, no, I think that's what it is. Now, some people then say to me, yeah, but you're wrong. Fort Lauderdale has 2 adult entertainments right next to each other, Pure Platinum and Solid Gold. And you know what I say to you? No, you're wrong, because they're in the city of Oakland Park. Remember I said always check with jurisdiction? You drive down US 1 between Oakland and Commercial, you think that's Fort Lauderdale. No, that's Oakland Park. Different codes. Goes back to your question. Why doesn't each one adopt the same? Well, each community has their right for their own code. Fundamental rights, immediate scrutiny, and then no fundamental rights. My son married a girl from China. She's the greatest girl in the world. I'm so happy that he married her. I could never wanted someone nicer for my son. But do you realize my son would have gone to jail back in the 1960s for interracial marriage? It just was against the law. Today, That's a fundamental right. Who you marry, who you have sex or don't have sex with, your ability to birth control, privacy, speech, these are fundamental rights. Okay? Our country, people shed blood against the British colony king for you to have these rights. This is why it's great to be an American citizen, the rights we have. The reason I'm talking about this, our forefathers did not shed blood for you to get 6 more stories per acre on your residential housing project. They don't really care about that. The point I'm trying to say is, these stuff really matters. As long as government has a reason to say no with a straight face, they're probably going to win. Where government has no reason to tell my son, sir, you can't marry that girl from China. Why? I love her. No, but we say no. Well, why? Well, we've always said no. That's how we've been. Well, you can't do that. That's a fundamental right. We're dealing with stuff here with it's stacked against us. That's why I said to you earlier, work with staff. Don't fight them. You want to get your project done. Okay. This is what you're doing. Comprehensive plan, zoning, development order. Zoning and the comp plan and development order all need to be consistent with one another. They got to line up. Okay? The zoning code has 3 options. You can do something as of right. You can do it as a conditional or special exception, or you're not allowed to do it. So many times, you'll go to a zoning code, it'll say B1, there'll be a list of uses for land, and it might have a P for permitted, a C for conditional use, and N for not allowed. Now let me give you a difference. Show you why there's a difference. Here's a piece of property. I put a 10-story apartment building. It's allowed as of right. The same 10-story structure as a hotel is now a conditional use or a special exception, which means it may be allowed, but not absolute. Why do you think government, it's the same structure, it's exactly the same architect, same building from the outside. Why would the government make a hotel go through greater review than an apartment building? Okay, it goes back to the picture about compatibility. People in an apartment building, they get up in the morning, they brush their teeth, they make their coffee, they get in the car, they go to work. They're gone all day long. They come back at night, they have their dinner, they go to bed, they walk their dog. Hotels have delivery trucks. They have catered events. They have people coming all night. They have valet parking. They have weddings. They have more impacts. So the government's going to say, look, you can have your hotel, but when you do your site plan, we want to make sure the lighting that you have faces towards your hotel and not the community. You know that dumpster in the back where you're going to have all the leftover food after the wedding? We don't want it next to the neighbors. Keep it internal. So what you need to know when you do the Boca Raton car dealership for me, is it allowed as of right? Is it allowed as a conditional special exception when there's greater review, or is it not permitted? And we're going to get into that. But look at the top. Everything must be consistent. I don't know if you guys have ever done this. Girls probably don't do this, but every once in a while, I'll leave and I'm wearing a black sock and a blue sock. And I didn't realize until I get out it's too late. Okay, they're not consistent. When you leave, you want to make sure you have 2 blues or 2 black socks, right? You need to have this perfect. Zoning, comp plan, development order, everything has to be exactly lined up. There's always a presumption in favor of government. House usually wins. I'm going to move on through this. How does the court decide? It depends. Hey, judges are human. I don't mean to sound offensive to anyone, it's a tough subject, but we have an OxyContin epidemic going on out there. Judges have kids too that abuse drugs. Do you want your judge sitting there on a Thursday when he was up all night long at the ER because his kid overdosed the day before an OxyContin, sit in judgment of you? Your judge puts his or her pants, dress on like everyone else. They're human beings. They bring their emotion to a courtroom. I don't know how the judge is going to decide. Depends on many things. Also the human factor. Therefore, settle. Time value of money, settle. Balance. I can't give you an answer. You tell me how the court's going to decide, I have no idea. As a lawyer, I have won things I should never have won, and I've lost things I should never have lost. Settle. Okay, this is the transition. If I'm a planner, but in this case, if I am a entry-level real estate analysis working for a big firm at $87,000 a year starting when I leave Nova, how do I know what the legal issue is? Well, when you leave here with your first job, I don't expect you to know. But I expect you to spot an issue, the smell test. You understand in the refrigerator, if you open the refrigerator and it's green and it's not supposed to be green, I probably wouldn't eat it. It passes the smell test. It doesn't pass the smell test. The whole thing here is for you to say, spot an issue. Okay? Gee, collar, no collar, gets approval, doesn't get an approval. That makes no sense. Why should he be treated differently? Government can't do that. My goal is to throw enough stuff at you so as you go through, you can hold your own. But the key thing, if you're going to do real estate where we're dealing with multiple millions of dollars, and multiple millions is really not that much. I'm involved with selling a hotel right now in Fort Lauderdale. We're unfortunately the second bidder. We're down by $5 million. We're at like in the 170s. Other people are close to 180s. We're going to lose it, it looks like. But that's 170 million. If you're dealing with that type for one building, on that team, you're going to have real estate experts. You're going to have land planner experts. You're going to have a lawyer. Let the lawyer do their job. But at least you can hold your own to ask the lawyer. Is that pretty cool? These are common questions. Can the local government stop or condition my project if the neighbors object? Can the local government require me to pay a whole bunch of fees for dedicated land to get it approved? Or if I sue the government, will I win if they deny me or put too many conditions? Okay, let me restate this real world. Can politics beat out property owners or developers' rights so the elected officials will get elected? I had the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, Jack Silent, who I went to law school with, say to me in a public meeting, Peter, I want you to go back and work with your neighbors, and when you get them happy and you're all happy, come back and see me then. What he's saying is this, Peter, thank you for the check from you, your wife, your 2 boys, your daughter. I wish the daughter could have written the check. I'll take your money to get reelected, but guess what? You're one person. There's 100 people out there. They're not happy. I'm not going to vote for you. Go make it work. Politicians don't want to deal with the dirty stuff. Your job as a real estate person is to let the mayor take full credit. So I came back 6 months later, and I said, Mayor, thank you for your guidance. Based on your leadership, Mayor, I worked with the community. And based on the standards that you set for us, we accomplished what you wanted us to do. I almost threw up. I was so... But that's what they want to hear. Okay? So yeah, politics, you can't take it out. This class is called Land Use Regulations. They should probably call it Politics and Land Use Regulations. Can the government take advantage of a property owner since they're the government? Yeah. Can the government take advantage? Yeah. You know? Do you want to fight them? I've had the old city attorney Harry Stewart of Fort Lauderdale, an old timer, look at me. He would say, Peter, I think you're right. I think the legal argument that you're saying is correct. And in 3.5 years after 2 appeals, when the Court of Appeals agrees with you, I will then apologize to you. You know what he's saying? Do it my way, or I'm going to hurt you because 4 years of litigation is going to kill your project. Okay? He never threatened me. He didn't need to. You know? So give the government. You don't want to play that game? Yes. What do I have to do? You want me to cut the building in half so the community can see it? Yeah. You want me to do a little walkway so so-and-so can walk their dog? Give me my approval. I want to make money. Can property owners sue the developer? I'm sorry, can property owners and the developer sue the blank out of the government because they don't get what they want? Well, yeah, they can. It's the problem. Every time the government says no to me, I think it's the worst thing in the world. Hell with North Korea with nukes, I don't care about that. They said no to my project. Well, they have the right to say no, they're the government. You didn't follow the code. So this is the real world. And the answer is depends. Since it depends, you probably, because of the balancing act, I've already showed you this, you got to settle. Okay, this is the framework. Local government thinks bless you. This is an important slide. Local government makes, in their mind, every decision they make, they think they're doing what's right to protect the public interest. They think it's police power, therefore they've not taken my property, therefore they don't need to pay me anything. Every developer thinks every time government says no, they've done the equivalent of taking my property, which is called inverse condemnation, and they should pay for it. That developer that bought the land from us at Behemoor, where I got 27 stories approved, and he wanted to go to 39, he thought he was raped by the government. How dare you not let me do 39 stories? I'm going to sue and get the money. Well, you're really not, but that's the venom that he had. And it's a balance in that. And we're going to go through some cases on this. Let me give you an analogy. Take out your cell phone. This is to teach you 6 weeks of land use law in 6 minutes. If I'm the government of the town of Davie, and I take your cell phone, can I have your phone, please? And I put it, and I'm not going to give it back to you. Would we all agree that government has taken its property? Yeah. We no longer have a king. We beat Britain. Government has to pay for that. Fifth Amendment. We all agree with that. Okay. Get your phone back. Let's make believe you're on a plane. You're going to New York. You have a job interview at a big real estate firm. And the stewardess comes on and says, please silence your phone, put it on airplane mode. Can you sue the government? Have they taken away anything from you? Don't you know that you're the future tycoon of real estate? How dare you not have access to your cell phone? No. We all would understand that on a plane, we don't want you trying to cut a real estate deal to interfere with navigation. That's public health, safety, welfare. Right? We all understand you're not going to win on that. Okay? So these are pretty clear. How about this now? You buy the phone, I'm the government. I don't want to take it from you. In fact, here, take your phone. It's yours. But guess what? You can never turn it on. You can look at it, you can use it as paperweight, and you can never turn it on. That's the law that government's going to do. Thou shalt not turn on, thou shalt phone. Okay?
Is that before you buy the phone?
No, he bought it.
Okay. And then you
Yeah, you can't turn it on. That's government going too far. And government saying you can't turn your phone on is no different than government taking your phone. Because basically, they have taken away all economic value. So let's now take us to land. I take your land, I gotta pay for it. All of you are in a subdivision of single-family homes. All of you have a house on it. You are the last house to be built. But it turns out that everyone has used your lot for a dog park. Now we're ready to build the 100th home in the subdivision. Government says, guess what? We're not buying the land. We don't want to take it from you. You just can't build on it. Guess what? You can stand on it. You look at the stars. You can put a tent, but you can't build on it. That rule would be the same as taking it. Okay? So whether government over-regulates but doesn't take your land, or if government actually takes your land from you, it has the same impact for you. You can't use it. The extremes are pretty clear. The litigation is here. What happens if I say this? It's your phone. I'm not going to take it. You can turn it on, but you have to turn it off on a plane, near new highway construction where they're blowing up dynamite because it might trigger the false alarm for it to go up too soon, in hospitals, and you can't use your phone when our president's tweeting because I don't want to interfere with his, tweets. And guess what? I believe in all religions are equal, therefore you can't use it on a Saturday or Sunday or Monday because the major religions look at Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You see, you get to a point where sooner or later, government starts to go too far again, but that's when the judge has to decide about, well, maybe it's only Saturday or Sunday. Yes?
Then I'm curious to see, then, based off of your example, how eminent domain kind of becomes justifiable. Because then it kind of goes into like what you're saying, like a little bit of pettiness.
No. It's no pettiness at all. Eminent domain is real clear. I want to build an extension of a highway or a park. I can take his land because it's a public purpose. And I can now say, we're taking your land, that 100th home is not going to be built. We're going to make it a park for everyone. We're going to use tax dollars to pay for it. Your lot's worth $200,000. Here's $200,000. That's eminent domain. Government has paid to take it. Do you have a problem with that? Government can do that. Okay? You can't say the following, gee, I don't want you to take my land. I don't want the road to be extended. I don't want the park. I don't want the hospital. I don't want the airport extension. No. Government gets to take your land in this country for public purpose if they pay for it.
But what about the penal decision?
Well, we're going to get to that later. That's a nuance later down in the slide. Okay? What I'm trying to get to you here is the following. If government takes your land, okay, it's pretty clear that they've gone too far. But the point is, government, without physically buying it for eminent domain the right way, okay, they can over-regulate to that point. And to go back, this is how it's the balance. Developers always want it to be paid. Government never wants to pay. And that's where the tug of war comes in. The first case ever from the Supreme Court did not really help us. And now again, to be a U.S. Supreme Court judge, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be real smart. You got to go to Harvard or Yale. You got to be the brightest people on the planet. And the brightest people on the planet came up with the following test. If government goes too far, well, they've gone too far. What does that mean? No one really knows. Now, clearly, if I say you can never turn your cell phone on ever, that regulation has probably gone too far. Saying you can't turn it on a plane, in a hospital, by a dynamite site when it's ready to blow, or in a house of worship, maybe I haven't gone too far. Okay? The point is, since the smartest lawyers in the world have no idea what too far means, look at the bottom thing. You want to settle. The whole point I'm trying to say here, NaCl is salt. That is a scientific fact. What we do is not scientific facts. All you want to do is get your approvals, get your project built, make your money, sell, and move on to the next project. This is not the time to prove a point. Loretto case, 1970s. I own an apartment building. This is when cable TV first started. The city of New York said to me, I must let the cable company physically invade my land to bring cable to the people. I'm a hardcore conservative Republican. I believe in property rights. How dare you take that space from me? I'm going to take you all to the Supreme Court. Mr. Loretto won. The U.S. Supreme Court said the following. If government invades your property and forces you to give up a piece of your property, even that little line, without paying for it, government can't do that. Everyone get that? Because if the answer was government could do that, well then how about 2 lines, 10 lines, 20 lines? How about half a block? So the rule you need to know, the minute government takes something from you, physically invades your land, says you must put something on your property or we're taking a piece, government better get the checkbook out. That's at one extreme. This is Mr. Lucas. Hurricane comes through in South Carolina, house gets blown down. His neighbor's house is withstood. He wants to rebuild. South Carolina said, no, we don't want any more homes in the Fair Island. You can't rebuild. You can stand on your land, you can look at the stars, and put a tent. You can't rebuild. Sues, goes over to the U.S. Supreme Court. Mr. Lucas wins. Supreme Court has said, taken away all economical viable use of that land, where he can't build, is the same thing as if you took his land. So whether you physically invade it, take it, which is the first case, no matter how small, you've taken the developer's property rights. Or if you over-regulate to a point where the house gets blown down and you can't rebuild, you've over-regulated. Those are the 2 extremes. All of you will understand this, and you won't get this on your final because it's pretty easy. If government takes something or regulates to a point that it's the equivalent of them taking something, government's gone too far. This is the worst case ever the Supreme Court has decided. This is New York City. This is Grand Central Station. It's a beautiful building. About 5 stories, beautiful Beaux Arts architecture. Looks like it could be in Paris. Beautiful. We're here to make money, right? Every building around that train station was allowed to go 50 stories. Air rights. So the people that own the train station said, you know what? We would like to keep the train station, but we want to build a building right above our train station. We've hired a great architect, a great engineer. We can somehow have it hang over, cantilever over, and go up. We want to do exactly what the zoning code allows for everyone else. And they said, gee, we don't want that. That's really not nice. We like that building just as it is. So they went back behind their closed door and they said, how are we going to stop this without hurting the government? And they made up a new test. Now, just to let you know how this was, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. His wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, married Onassis. She's a very wealthy person now, living in New York, and she didn't want this, because she didn't want a skyscraper over such a beautiful architectural thing. Okay? So, the Supreme Court came up with a new test, the Penn Central Balancing Test. Now, you could be the dumbest person in this room, and after listening to me for a half an hour, you understand Loretto. If government takes something, they got to write a check, right? That's at this extreme. If government comes here and doesn't take the cell phone but says you can never turn it on, it's the same thing. They come up with this test that I don't have any idea what it means. No one does. The character of government action, the impact of the economic regulation on the owner, and the owner's investment-back expectation. They came up with a test that no one knows what it means. This is like in the 1970s. It's no different than the test in the 1920s of too far. We're going to stop shortly hereafter. I'm not going to go in. Will you bring the computer next time for the rest of this PowerPoint? Sure. We'll finish it. The point that I'm trying to make here, 99% of the time when government, I don't know if you like snakes or not. If this is a snake curled up, the reason snakes curl up is because they're able to then strike if they need to. They get the momentum to strike out. Now, this is a king snake. You can poke at it all day long, and if it snaps, it might bite me, no big deal. But if it's a coral snake, you know, the color's the same, just the stripe's a little different. If I poke at it and it comes up and bites me, I'm dead or I'm paralyzed. It's not a good thing. The point of it is, you just don't know what the snake's going to do. And you don't know what kind of snake it is. It's an unknown. So I don't know about you, but if I sit in there and I see red, black, and yellow, I know there's a rhyme you're supposed to know about which one touches and whether it's poisonous or not. I don't know about you. Don't poke the snake. Just go around it, right? Why take a chance? You want to be in a courtroom when I'm paying you a salary to develop and make money for me and your bonus is tied to this? Do you want to litigate over some test that lawyers don't know what it means? No. So the whole purpose here is this. We're here at Nova Business School teaching you how to make money. There's other people at places like Florida Atlantic University that teach urban planners. They don't care about your money. They care about the public image and public realm. They care about something called affordable housing for other people. Okay? We don't care about that unless we can get affordable housing tax credits and make money on it. We're here to make money. Therefore, I suggest you're never going to have the easy extremes. You're going to have something in the middle. If government wants to cut your building in half so that the public can see through and your pro forma works, do it. They want you to do a dog park on the side, do it. They want you to do a $100,000 contribution to something, and if it makes it work, do it, okay?
One quick question about Lucas' case. So on the Loretta case, what you're saying is that if they take the physical property, they have to write a check.
Yeah. Oh wait, just so you know, Mr. Lucas won, and he got $1. But the point was, remember I said stars decisis? Even though he only got $1, every land use lawyer 50 years later or 40 years later knows to still think about the Lucas, that if government has gone so far to invade the take, they got to write a check. And we're going to get to a case next week on the Kuntz case where actually it was a much bigger check they had to write. Okay?
But he got $1 and then was able to rebuild? Or no?
The point was, The case was decided by the Supreme Court to set a standard. People, just like I said, the state of Iowa is trying to get the Supreme Court to undo Roe v. Wade. This case was brought there to try to set a standard to say if government takes, they're going to write a check. Okay? Well, you want to continue your question?
Well, I was gonna ask you that if in the case of Lucas, or in the case of the government, for any case using 100% regulatory taking of all property rights, if they can do that as long as they write a check, if it's the same remedy.
Yeah, look, if government, look, 100 lots in a subdivision, he's got the last lot. Going back to the thing about eminent domain. If his lot is worth $200,000 and I buy it from him, he has no rights beyond that. Because you can pay fair market value. Government can take it. What government can't do is say, I'm not going to pay you for your lot. You can't have a house like everyone else. We're going to force you to give a free park to your 99 neighbors.
Right.
That's where government's gone too far. The whole purpose of this is to let you know the following. And I know some of you have background working for government, but when government does something, put both hands on your pocket. They're not your friend. When they say to protect and serve, what they should say is to protect and serve their own job and their inflated pension. Okay? Not your property rights. Okay? This is the real world. Okay? This isn't philosophy class on how the world should be. Of course it would be nice. Look, I'm a human being. I think Obamacare makes great sense. Everyone should have health care, right? Okay? As someone who's writing the check, I don't want to pay for it. Okay? Government would love to make developers do affordable housing, I-95 interchanges, regional parks, because they have so much money. And my attitude is, a new interchange in I-95 is a great thing. Have all the taxpayers pay for it. Affordable housing for people who don't have a house, great thing. Don't make me pay for it because I want to build 100 market homes. Make everyone pay for it. We're not arguing over the moral value of what we should do. What I'm trying to tell you is you're going to leave Nova, you're going to go out there, and government's going to try to hit you as much impact fees as they can, as much free conditions they want you to do as they can, and they're going to take you as close as they can to almost going too far. And you need to make a business decision. Government has the right to go from here to here, because that's police power. That's him not driving 100 miles on the highway. The minute government starts to ask for a little bit more, I got to make a business decision. I can pay a little bit more. You know, look, you want to hit me in the stomach? Go ahead. I can take a couple hits in the stomach. You want me in the face? That's going to hurt. And I won't look gorgeous anymore, right? But when government starts going below the belt or in the face, I think they've gone too far. And that's when I got to get the lawyer to say stop. But this time below that, expect to get a couple of punches in the stomach from local government and expect to write that check to get your project approved. It's not an absolute science. So when you sit down and you give a pro forma for your boss, you better add something called land use contingency. And when I do something, and I deal with the neighbors, expect the neighbors to get a handout. Expect you paying for a new guardhouse for them, new palm trees for their entrance, whatever they need. Sometimes they're cute about it and they say, we'd like to upgrade the security of our community. Your new project's going to bring a lot more people. Can you pay for a new gate and guardhouse? That's a good straight-faced discussion. Sometimes they say, we want $250,000 shakedown from you because we know that you'll pay it. You make a business decision. Expect the neighbors, expect the government to beat up on you. Put aside our president as a president. Before he got here, we all knew he was a billionaire real estate developer. We all knew he had too much money. Every time he does a new project, expect everyone to come out in the woodwork. hey, can you make the park better? Can you do some affordable housing? Can you do this? Can you do that? And what I'm trying to get you to see here, it's a balance. So next week, I want to have a very informative discussion on the Boca dealership. Spend some time on that. I want a solution.
In the city of Boca, right?
City of Boca Raton. US 1, north of Palmetto Park Road up to the Delray Beach line. I want you to have a good flavor for what their rules are. Because remember this, if I'm teaching at Florida Land University, all this BS that I'm teaching the planners, they love this stuff. It's the stuff that they go home and we pray to money, they pray to green grass and affordable housing and social justice. And you better care about what they care about, because they're the ones who write the staff report so your project can get approved. Okay, go.
Thank you.
Call your mother, wish her happy Mother's Day. No, it's not a, don't even. All right, next week, I'll see you next week. All right, bro. Take everything else. The problem is the former chair, you're not going to get anything done. Because no one runs the floor. And so you'll go through great steps, we did, and at the end of the day, any solution you come up with is going to get voted down, and no real change is going to happen. No, I was on the committee because I own property, but not as a voting, because I own commercial property as a developer.
What?
But you try to do something good. Okay. But it means don't expect to solve the problem.
Well, welcome back. Everybody loves a little pain, man.
Last time.
No, it's definitely who you know. What district is it? Oh, Steve Preston, to be a friend. I can reach out to him. He's a nice man. You know him?